Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Money in the Law. Why don't we just do that a little more rookie, right? It's Money in the Law on My FM 101.3. Saturday morning. I don't know if there's some chips on people's shoulders
Everyone
today.
seems a little edgy
If there
this
are,
morning.
you know, we have 50 minutes to get those to just
If you
brush
got a chip on
those
your
off.
shoulder, I'm getting out the case.
To brush. So, Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. This is your show. The show where we talk about money. This is where we talk about the
of
law.
shows.
Simple. Your host, Jay Marzen. He's from the Marzen Law Group. I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial. Tom Harmon is from the Holliston Hub, a.k.a. formerly known as HCAT. And we are here with you Saturday morning talking about all things money and all things law. Somebody came in with an attitude today. Maybe it was me. Maybe it wasn't. Whatever. All I know right now is everybody's got a little bit of an attitude, and that's gonna. You know what? It's gonna make the show better. It's gonna keep everybody on their toes. Because you know why? Just like in life, right? Just like in life, you can't sit back and you can never not be leaning forward in the foxhole.
It's a contact sport. Life is a contact sport.
You can't take a break.
Can't be a passive observer.
Why?
No.
Right? You don't, because we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
You don't know. Yeah. You don't know when your number's coming up. You don't know when Skylab's coming out of the sky.
That's
so you got to do it every day. You bring it every day. So
they call you number.
Today's Saturday, and we're going to bring it. We're bringing it, and we're obviously dressed for success. For those of you on the radio, Jay is wearing a nice kind of his
nice ensemble.
It's very blue. He's very blue.
My color, match my eyes.
I today am wearing. I forgot to tell Ray about this. I'm wearing my cargo pants, my cargo shorts in honor of
Ray.
Old Man Ray, because he was I think he was a little sensitive last week about cargo shorts. And I was like, no. He's like, you give me a hard time about my shorts.
I mean, he looks good on them.
Not only is it's a practical look because now I have 2 extra pockets.
Well, because you know what? Because he's a musician. What do musicians always have on them? Equipment.
Stuff.
There's a microphone.
Yep.
Do you have a microphone right here? Do you have
a guitar pick?
Yeah. Hold on.
I have 11 of them.
Hold on. How about harmonica? Well, I have 11 pockets. I might have 10 harmonicas.
It wouldn't be any different than if you're playing golf with Tom Harmon, right? Because you're like, oh, I need a tee. Tom's like, bang.
No, Tom. No. Tom's gonna say, well, hold on. I have a wooden tee. I have a plastic tee. I get a high tee. I get a low tee. I get a 3/4 tee. I get the naked lady tees. Which ones do you want?
And you just instinctively pick naked lady. All right.
For those of you who don't get that reference, by the way, that's an old school Caddyshack reference.
Oh, of course.
Yes. For those of you who...
I just did a Caddyshack reference the other day.
Nice.
No lie. Nice. So, because this is what I want to lead the show in with today. I want to talk about golf. Because guess what I played last Friday?
Oh, boy.
Golf.
Here we go.
My first round of the year.
Nice.
And I think it's time. I think I'm ready. And it was kind of the same feeling I had when I finished my first song front to back on the guitar. I'm like, you know what?
I found a new outlet.
I can do this.
Yes.
I can. Now I'm not making any claims that I can do it well.
No.
But I think I can do it.
Right.
I'm ready.
All right.
So I had told you, we talked last time about the golf tournament that I planned for my friend Jeff Moxon. It's called the Mox Open. So it turns out, normally I'll play with my high school buddies, but it turns out some guys weren't available, right? So I had to bring some locals with me, right?
All right.
Actually, one of the locals, which we discussed last time, we probably need to let him know that show was about him, is One Each Ken Soares couldn't make it, and I was complaining about it. So the other local that I had, because I got to pair these guys up, the other was Tom Campersall. Campersall, this is the first time that Campersal's been addressed here. And you know Campersall, right?
Do.
Yeah.
I
So
do.
Tom Campersall is also known as the godfather of old man softball, because Campersall, he's a coach of his own team, which is named after him, Campersall.
Why not?
But as far as like all the ins and outs and all the workings, he's always involved. It's like, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And they have a board.
It's a borderline legit organization.
They have a board, and Campersall is forbidden to be on the board. He's not allowed to be on the board. And they're like, and they threaten him. They say, hey, we're not going to let you on the board. And he goes, I don't care, because I make everything happen anyway.
Right. That's true.
So I got to, I spent 13 hours with Tom Campersall on Friday. It was a long day, but I'll tell you what, that kid can play some golf.
Sure.
He holds his own. However, the guy who was the game changer for me was another one of my friends from high school, a guy by the name of Jeff Jowdy. And Tom will attest to this guy. So Jeff Jowdy is the president of the Ridgewood Country Club Association.
Before, yes.
So, and this is the first time I've ever played a round with Jeff Jowdy. You want to talk about somebody who's like, okay, Jeff, are you going to split the fairway by 4 inches either way?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen to where the last 8 holes, I just stood behind him and just watched the ball go straight down the middle.
It's motivating. When you play golf with somebody who's as good as Tom or your buddy, you say to yourself, I think I want to look like that. I want people to look at me like I'm looking at him, right? And you want to get into that, like you're drawn into somebody's talent. I know what you're talking about.
And when you're playing a scramble and you got
everybody contributes,
everybody, you're just getting up and ripping because you know why? No matter what, Jeff's going to get us on the green. It was a really good time. And so here's what happened. So of course I get up. I haven't hit in a while, so I send my first 5 balls into the woods, shanked into the woods. And Jeff says, he looks at me, he goes, I think I got it. And he looks at me, he goes, and he adjusts my foot placement.
One little
he goes, just back up 6 inches. 6 inches to your right, and the next thing you know, I was hitting some straight balls. I mean, putting us on the green.
Yes.
I mean, no, it wasn't, like, again, I wasn't Jeff Jowdy, but I had usually in a round, I'll get maybe 3 good shots. I think I had 11 good shots.
There you go.
I mean, and I was like,
as a percentage improvement.
It's time for me to buy my own clubs.
That's huge. I got that text and I thought, what is going on? What is going on? Yep.
So it was a great day and for a great cause. Again, I do another shout out to my buddy Jeff. Great cause for all the crap that he's been through. He's the guy who still turns around and like runs a golf tournament just to give to a good cause. So not unlike the guys here at My FM 101.3.
Always giving.
Not unlike
the go-givers.
Not unlike the guys of Jay Marsden. Jay Marsden, as he was involved with tons of stuff, gave away. He's one of the founding members of the Holliston Community Action Fund. Don't think you're not getting any credit for that. Giving out money to hundreds of people.
Great team effort. That was
to hundreds of people. So everybody's doing their part.
Yes,
everybody's doing their part.
That's right.
All right. So what's new with you?
Nothing. Same. We're just talking music before the show started. I was in Fenway, living, feeling like I was in high school again, watching.
I'll bet you did.
Watching not Steve Perry, but the
Steve
new
Miller.
lead singer from Steve Miller and the lead singer from Journey run all over the stage at Fenway. Great show, a lot of laughs with some family and friends. And rumor was there was even an appearance by Def Leppard.
Stop.
Yeah, that's what I'm told.
Actually, they were the lead. They were the.
I think they were the headliner. I think they were the headliner.
They could have been.
Yep.
And it's funny. So before the show started, he said, "Well, it was a little fuzzy coming into Def Leppard just because of the pregame activity."
Well, the heat and the sun. You're out there a lot. It's just sunscreen.
It's summer, right? Yeah. And again, that happened to me in high school. I was remembering that happened in high school because we had really good seats for Prince and the Revolution.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. Why?
Can't wait for the show.
Why don't I have a lot of pictures of this in my mental pictures in my mind? Well, whatever. You know what?
It's all good. It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. So when they bring the beer right to your chair, that's a little bit. Helps keep things moving.
That's the difference, right? And that's
you're not going up the 80 flights, with I get 2 please, and you come down with 2.
Right, because all you get is
that's right. Yeah. So it's all good. It's all good.
And Tommy, have you been playing some golf? What are you doing?
I need to.
What are you waiting for? Like winter?
I can't play with you guys. I'm worried I'll not look good.
Oh no.
Stop it right there. Maybe we'll find time for 9.
I think we're going to need to find just to see what we're working with here.
That's it.
Right?
That's right. Just to see if we're not,
we might have to get some of that on video as well.
Excellent idea.
Up on the website.
We'll grab the camera from. We'll do a whole show on the.
I mean, I say we bring Don Cronin. We film the whole thing.
9 holes. Film the whole thing.
Yeah, 9 holes.
Yep.
And do
Money in the law.
And we call
on the links.
And we call it right. Yeah.
Yep.
Jay on the first tee.
There we go. That's
Jay,
right. Put your Jim Nance voice on.
He's looking about a 375 with a bit of a dog leg right. Let's see what he's got.
Yep.
He's going to hit his
11 shots for this one.
That's a 3-iron, isn't it? Wow, a lot of power. Doesn't even put it on the tee.
Nope.
Just like getting it straight,
right off
straight and low.
Right off the deck. That's good. So what's on your mind? What are we chatting about today?
So many things were on my mind. But I was making some notes and talking about stuff, and I have like probably 3 or 4 different things that I want to talk about, but it all kind of boiled down to one thing, and this goes right hand in hand with estate planning and all that. It's the idea of legacy, and it's the idea of but I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different angle, because I've had several clients that are talking to me about where they're we're talking about their retirement, and they're kind of nervous about this, and the market, and how am I going to generate it? I'm worried about like my debt and whatnot. But then I don't want the kids to inherit a house that has a mortgage on it. And I was like, whoa, stop right there. Just stop in your tracks.
Right.
The whole idea, and the idea of kind of like where people, parents, we're parents, right? And I will spoil my children as much as anybody else. I'll go toe to toe with anybody.
Agreed.
But because as a parent, you just instinctively, you always care about your children. You always want, you're looking out for the best, no matter how old they get, no matter how old you are. And we've seen this, both of us, in our practices. But the idea of that I have to build my future, particularly my retirement future, on making sure that I leave something for my children, unless they absolutely need it, like they're a special needs or an adult that lives, unless they absolutely need it, that's secondary to me. That's secondary to me as a planner.
Okay. All right.
Secondary to me as a planner, and it's secondary to me as an advisor from a building a retirement plan, because again, we've said this before. What's I feel like my most important job is to make sure you don't run out of money.
Right.
Make sure that you get to the finish line, whether it's at whatever year it is, age 110. You're 110 years old, you get there, you still have money in the bank, and you've lived that life. You never felt like you couldn't do things because you didn't have money.
Correct. Yeah. Understood.
And I understand the value of legacy, and I understand the value that people put on legacy, but if that's going to interfere with my number one priority of getting you to not run out of money, then we're gonna dive deep into that, and we're gonna unpack that, and we're gonna make sure you're gonna have to convince me on this if I'm gonna put your retirement at risk.
Well, I think that's a great way to say it. We look at it the same exact way that you guys look at it. We kind of come at it from the other side of the bridge, right? We come in and we say, look, if you want to leave
the other
a
side
legacy,
of the tracks is what you've implied.
Bridge? No, bridge.
The train tracks.
You're coming.
Because we're on that, with that the little high ground, nice side of town, and then
yeah, my father worked for the railroad for 35 years. I don't know how railroads work. But the idea is, you come at it from, I want to make sure that you don't run out of money and that you can live your life in retirement. We look at it and say, well, if you want to leave a legacy, then you got to start thinking about what that legacy looks like now. And you need to start doing the planning. And if you want to arrange the deck chairs in such a way that you are leaving said legacy, with some element of security to it, then let's start thinking about that, and let's start identifying what assets might be the asset to fulfill that legacy objective, right? And we always come at it and say, look, you need a roof over your head, so why don't we start with real estate, right? And now, would
start
we say
with roofing?
Well, would we say to somebody, look, you need to make sure you pay off this mortgage? That's a different. You've had 30 years to make that decision, right? So if you haven't really figured out that part of it yet, the answer might be, you can leave them a house and you can leave them whatever equity you leave them in the house. But I would echo your comments about, look, I'm not going to shoot your retirement planning self in the foot by saying, look, I'd rather just pay this mortgage off. No, I don't think so.
So, like I said, I agree. I think there's a lot to unpack, because it's kind of the question is the why. Like, why do I feel like I need to leave a legacy? And I think there's a couple different answers. There's a couple different kind of motivators from there that that we've kind of seen relatively consistently. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the why, and then we'll get to the how. And we'll get to the how, and we'll get to kind of what's the number, what's the value we're going to put on that legacy? Because if that value is really high, then you can't ignore it, right? You can't just dismiss it. But at the same time, I think sometimes people kind of value it probably a little bit too high, just because that's the way that they're wired, and they don't really understand kind of the ramifications of how that could affect their longer term retirement.
Well, let's talk about it after the break.
Well, and I said as we glide into this break, very smooth show today.
Nice.
Not unlike that new golf swing, right? Not unlike that, right?
Here we go.
That is not mine. That is yours, or definitely Tom's. Not unlike that, but we're going to take a quick break. Come on back, and we're going to talk about kind of how to make sure your legacy, if you're going to leave a legacy, the right way to do it.
Got it.
Don't go away.
And we're back. My FM 101.3, Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group, and John Drohan, Man After Financial, Money in the Law, Tom on the bag. And we are talking about your legacy that you're trying to leave behind. The good stuff, not the bad stuff, and we want to make sure that you're
Right,
you're
not
thinking about it the right way.
Not the scandal and the prison
That's right.
sentences and
We're
things
gonna
like
leave
that.
those
No,
we're going to
no.
leave those skeletons right in the closet.
Right,
But
lock
this
that
is all the
closet,
other
yeah.
stuff. This is all the other stuff. It's funny. This is always a fun conversation to have with clients because this is one of those like you can take your glasses off your head, you can put them on the table, you can put the notepad away for 1 second, you can sit back and you can just say, like,
Why?
Think out loud for me.
Yeah.
Think out loud. Tell me. You just said you're very concerned about leaving a legacy to your kids or to your family. Tell me what that means.
Yeah.
Right. And then let them go.
Like paint that picture,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So what does that picture look like sometimes? What are oftentimes the picture as well? First things first, like you said, like the real estate, right? Like the house you grew up in, or if you're fortunate enough to have the vacation home that you guys all went on vacation with, or went on vacation to, that's usually like, I want to make sure I leave the house to the kids. I want to leave the Cape House to the children because they've had so many great memories there.
Sure.
I've had so many great memories there. We've had so many great, so to me, to give that to them and leave that to them, I feel very strongly about
Yep.
that.
Understood. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's a real feeling. And that's a real, and I get it. And when people say that, I'm like, okay, I get it. And you know what? We're going to do everything in our power to kind of make this happen because, when you're talking, when you're listening to that story, when you do the glasses take off and say, hey, what do you want to see in your, what do you want to see when all the dust settles?
Right.
That's an important thing. That's one of the main things that you're going to see is that, I want to leave the house to the kids, right?
Yeah.
And then, what we were talking about before the break is like, well, my number one priority is to make sure you don't run out of money. So depending upon kind of what other finances or what other monies you have, I mean, if all you have is your house, then potentially that might not be an option, right? It might, or there may be certain events that happen because again, no one really knows what the future is going to hold, right?
Well, you're going to ask that question around other issues as well, right? You're going to say, okay, well, let's see. If we're, like we always ask the question this way, we always say to somebody, do you think at some point down the road you're going to need the house or the money that the house would turn into?
Right.
Right.
And they may not know, right? They
Understood.
may not get that. So that's kind of where, you as your estate planning attorney is going to kind of walk them through that and say, okay, so you're 65 years old now. In 20 years, you're going to be 85 years old. And at 85, maybe you can live maybe you still have the capability to live on your own, but maybe you don't, right? So if you get to that point where you can't live on your own or you can't live in said house because, it's got crazy stairs, it's got, it's just too much work for you to be able to. So at that point, what are your options? And again, you're kind of fast forwarding into the future.
Well,
what are your options of how you're going to live, right?
Well, it's kind of started the whole conversation off, which is, well, what's your legacy, right? I mean, if your legacy is the actual physical real estate, then that's one potential path.
Right.
That's one conversation. If the legacy is the money that one particular piece of real estate would turn into, and then the flexibility or the freedom that gives your kids, if that's what we're talking about, to go do other things, well, that's a different legacy, right? No one's, focused on the real estate. They're just focused on getting a good broker or something if it happens to mom and dad and getting the highest and best, value they can get for the property. And then that's your legacy. Great. You're giving your kids money to pay off their own mortgage at 50. That's your legacy. That's part of that discussion.
And that's the feeling that that people have, that kind of innate, kind of ingrained feeling of parental overwatch on my children, no matter how old they are.
Sure.
I want to still take care of my kids. That's important to me, right?
Yeah.
And so when we get to that, this is important to me conversation, and we're looking at what kind of assets that they have. What do you have? What do you have in your war chest?
Right.
So the idea of, look, I understand you want to give money, you want to leave something for your children, all right?
Yep.
And then I'll go to the next question of why.
Yep.
Why do you want to do it? And if the answer is because I just want to, because it will make me feel better, and then you can kind of say, all right, well, if you have kind of limited assets, you have because we need to worry about your having enough money in retirement.
Yeah,
if you're limited, then do you think your kids are going to be as happy to receive $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in some form of inheritance,
Right.
versus you you getting to the point where you can't live on your own, and then you have to go into some form of assisted living thing, or you have to come and live with them,
Right.
and thus putting that kind of a burden on them, that kind of a different level of requirement or a different level of maintenance in dealing with their parents.
Hey, look, your legacy, we talk about it doesn't always have to be money, right? Your legacy could be, look, I struggled taking care of my parents for a long, long time through all these health issues that they had, and it robbed, us or me or of this particular time in life. And I'm not going to pass that burden on to you. My legacy to you is that you don't have to worry about that. It's not money. It's not this. It's you not having to worry about me because either I've worked with John for so long and they've been wildly successful lining us up for this, or we bought long-term care insurance. We're not going to give you money, but we're not going to give you us to take care of it, right?
That's a great way to look at it. So we're not giving you extra work. We're not giving you extra financial burden. We're not giving you extra time burden, and that alone could be a legacy.
That could have real value.
Yeah, I mean, real monetary value.
Yes.
Like, think about it, right? Think about how many clients they've had to kind of move in with their kids because they really don't have the wherewithal to be able to live in an assisted living place because maybe they don't have the money, or maybe they can't do it, right? They're not physically able to do it.
Right.
And then
right.
the next thing is the nursing home, and that's an entirely different ball game, right?
Well,
So
and you're going to say, look, we're going to go live, independently with some help, and we want to see you, but we're not going to make you become our caregivers.
I think that whole idea of again, I always come back to the parental. Like I feel like I owe it to my kids. I feel like my kids deserve to, and yeah, you've worked hard for whatever you've earned, whatever you've done, but the fact that you owe your kids money at that point, that you owe
Right.
your kids something, that's the thing that I struggle with, right? But when it's just like, I just feel like I need to leave something for my kids. And sometimes, and you've seen this too, it's driven by the kids.
Yeah.
Kids are like, whoa, hey dad, you got a lot of money, can you help me out with this? Or, I mean, and I've heard this before, where kids will ask a little for their inheritance early.
Oh yeah.
Can I have my inheritance? And when things like that start happening.
Look, we've talked about this on this show countless times, right? If you don't think that the people that you are sort of trying to create this legacy conversation amongst yourselves, if you don't think those folks don't know how much your house is worth, right?
They know.
You're insane, right? You're insane. Everyone's sitting around with the phone in their pocket, just punching in addresses, right?
Yeah.
What's mom and dad's house worth? And then they immediately do math, right? Whatever that number is, they immediately divide that by however many kids are in your family, and they assume that windfall will at some point in the future, they don't know when, but at some point in the future, that's where the bidding starts. It starts there. They might not know anything else about retirement accounts and 401ks or anything like that, but they do know what their share of your house is worth.
They know what you own, right?
That's
they
right.
They know you
That's
got
right.
two houses,
Yep.
right? You got the one in Holliston,
Yep.
and you have the one in Falmouth, right?
Yep.
I know that.
Yep. So they did some math, and they're looking at, all right, we're splitting this number.
Yeah, and this is and you see the kids, this whole idea of I'm kind of where the kids have that feeling like I'm owed money. I'm owed. I should have some of that. And how many times have you had clients that kind of talk about their inheritance? Well, we stand to inherit this from my wife's father.
We ask you as a prospective client. We ask you down the road, is there something that might? I mean, it's ingrained in sort of the estate planning, financial planning culture.
Right, because you want to understand kind of what the whole concept
That's right.
is. But from the plain old financial planning piece,
Yeah.
from that strategic planning, all of that to me is extra. All that to me is gravy. If someone says, well, I'm thinking about an inheritance, I'm like, we're not going to plan for anything.
That's
We're
right.
not planning for one thin dime to come from either of your parents
Right.
for inheritance, because it's you don't know until you know.
Nope, that's right. Well, that's I mean, we do a lot of Medicaid planning for clients, and that's what we tell them. Look, you want to know when the door is closed, and you can sort of start, counting on some things. It's when we're not worried about anybody going to a nursing home, because unfortunately, everybody's already passed on.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when I can say, okay, now I can say with some degree of clarity that those monies are probably to start now working their way into the system to figure out what everybody's going to inherit when the time comes. But beforehand, absolutely not.
So the way we'll approach it is, when we're having the conversation with somebody and say, okay, I really want to leave a legacy. It's important to me. And then we say, okay, why do you want to do that? Oh, because I want to help my kids. I want to put them in a better place. I want them to have more than I had. All the right things.
All right
right?
reasons, yeah.
Yep, all good reasons. And then it comes to the how do we do that, or what does that look like? Because we've had the conversation. We're like, hey, let's kick back and just imagine like what the perfect world looks like. But once we see that, or once we've kind of identified what's perfect or what we really want to see, then how do we get there?
Right.
How do we get there? And the great thing about like kind of when you're talking to somebody who's not directly involved in it is they're going to be like, you ain't going to get there. I mean, I don't see, again, based on my experience, based on what I've seen, I don't see you getting to to the point where you're going to leave each of your kids $1 million,
right,
and they're all going to share the $2 million Cape Cod house.
Right.
I don't know how that's because A, you don't have $4 million,
right,
and B, the Cape Cod house. That's the one thing that you may need that in order to generate some form of income in some way, shape, or form.
Well, and you probably see this all the time. You think about too how you view the asset as the person who's trying to create the legacy. That changes over time, right? So, when you were living in your Cape house and that was your place to live, and you were taking out a second mortgage and making some renovations and some upgrades, and you're doing this and that was just a place for you to go and hang out and be with your family and all that stuff. But then as you get into your later years, then you start to reflect back, right? And you start to look back on it. And for the longest time, you thought to yourself, well, we can always sell the Cape house. Right, we always sell the Cape house. That was
It was always that ace you had kind of in your back
exactly
pocket.
right. That was you had that, and you were ready. Now you're not thinking about that anymore. Now you're thinking, well, I don't want to sell it. But I didn't. But by the way, I didn't do anything else that would have helped me not be in a position to not have this be my only option.
Yeah.
Right. For example, we talk to clients all the time that say, look, all of our money's tied up in retirement accounts. That's great. You've put a ton of money away in your retirement accounts. You've given yourself zero flexibility to do anything else with any money that doesn't involve dealing with withdrawals and taxes and penalties and things like that. And if you put all your eggs in that Cape Cod vacation house legacy basket, now everything that you need to do is built in around making sure that the house remains untouchable, but you've done nothing else to allow the house to be untouchable.
Because your retirement's costing money.
Your retirement's costing money, your long-term care costs are costing money, everything's costing money, and you didn't plan for anything else other than it's now time to use the ace in your back pocket, and you don't want to use it.
Yeah.
But you left yourself no other options.
Yeah, and this kind of one of the options of how do I use my house, my existing home, to be able to help me provide money or provide income is then it's the dreaded reverse mortgage, right? So then there's the reverse mortgage, that conversation comes up. I don't know how many clients I've had come, they're like, no way.
Oh, they push the chair back to the table, they're ready to run for the parking lot.
Are you crazy? Why would you do that? And then you say, well, here's why, because this allows you to kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yep.
And in the beginning of the show, we talked, because I just had a conversation with a client yesterday where they were so concerned about leaving their house. And it all started with, when I retire, I want to take money out of my IRA and pay off my mortgage. Oh. And I was like, what? Like, why would you do that? Why would you want to? And the reason was because if my kids inherit the house, I don't want them to have a mortgage. And that's what kind of drove this. That's what made me like,
sure. No.
Like if your kids inherit a house that's worth $500,000 and there's a $100,000 mortgage on it, so what?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what? I mean, unless someone's
and they inherited your IRA that you didn't clean out to pay off the mortgage. So now they get to choose. Do I want the house or I want cash? What do I want to do here?
Yeah, and again, that's going to be something that they're going to have to deal with. So we're going to take a quick break,
okay,
and we're going to come back.
All
we're
right,
going to talk about the how. So how do we kind of, if you have the strong feeling that you want to leave a legacy, how are some of the ways that you can do that?
Got it.
All right, don't go away. Don't go away. Don't you go away. Don't you go away. We'll be right back.
Right here, for at least an hour. And we're back, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tommy here keeping us, taking that extra pounds off with that magic.
I don't know.
Magic
I mean,
eraser
do
over there at the
something.
thing. Yeah,
Do something.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I need some summer.
Yeah,
I don't know what
yeah.
it is, right? Aren't you supposed to lose weight in summer? You're supposed to like slice
not at all.
down?
No, not when every single thing you do is accompanied by a Corona and a clam plate.
It's funny. We just had to take a quick break during the actual break, and I'm like, I don't know how the DJs do it, right? I would again Inagata Davida.
I'm sure there's old school
my
stories.
song,
I'm sure
right?
there's old school
Yeah,
stories.
how I got to
old
do
school
it.
stories. Yep. We're talking before the lengthy break. Talking about your legacy. We're talking about this idea of our thing is prepare for it, right? Like well, I guess I say it this way: most people get to the window, of where the legacy can actually start to appear on the horizon, and then they start thinking about it, right? And I'm coming at it from the side that says, look, you need to identify this early. Right, and you need to identify it because.
Well, why? What do you know? What do you see early?
Here's the thing. Your legacy planning, it's the same as your retirement planning, right? You tell people, look, let's figure out what you think you want your retirement to look like, and if we think about it 30 years in the future, we can make some minor adjustments along the way that help get us there, right?
Yeah,
and what do they say about an airplane? Like 90% of the time, it's in the air, it's off schedule, right? Or it's off its flight plan.
Who said that?
I read it somewhere. Because when you get close, that's making me
nervous.
That's when the work starts.
Right.
Sailing's the same way, right? In the boat, you're a little bit off. You end up at a completely wrong end. It's a series of minor tweaks and adjustments.
Wait a minute.
Along the
So
way.
when like a naval aircraft carrier is out, like busting across the Indian Ocean, like 90% of it is like unplanned,
that's
it's
a plane.
unscripted.
I'm saying if you're in a boat.
You just said a boat. That's a boat. It's the biggest boat I know.
Ship, yeah, but if you're off track just a little bit and you stayed on that track, you're supposed to go here. You end up over here, and now all of a sudden.
Well, why is that, right? Because I got to adjust for things.
they would
I got
know
to adjust for
that's
changes,
right.
things
That's
that I don't
exactly
see
right.
coming.
That's my point.
Your point is right on.
My point is,
Spot.
if you start the conversation about what you think you want your legacy to be, you have a much better probability of success because you can make those changes. That person who says, look, it's really my desire to hand my kids a house as my legacy with no mortgage on it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's maybe, is that an extra $100 towards principal? 15 years out? I don't know. Is it?
Well, when does that start, right? It kind of kicks in, it's like when you have kids, right? And you become that parent, right? And you think like, I'm just saying the feeling of where I want to care for my kids. I'm not saying you're planning your legacy when your first kid's born.
But I think it happens when your first kid becomes an adult. I mean, you and I have talked about this on the show 100 times, right? We're walking the same walk, right? My kids are graduating college now, right? My daughter is finishing, classes in her master's program towards her graduate degree, and she will be out in the world, right? She will be potentially unnested. She's out, right?
Like
she's doing her thing, right?
Like is this the one where you like turn her room into a guest bedroom?
Turn the phone off. Don't even tell her. Just turn it off. She goes to college.
You need a cell phone. Yeah. Hey, listen, you better get yourself a cell phone.
That's right. That's right. You've heard of those, right? Yep. So I think that's when you start thinking about it because you've met your obligations, right? And you arguably have now realized I got a couple of extra bucks kicking around because I've been paying tuition bills for the last 5 years, right? Now I got some found money or I get some money left over in a 529 plan, or like that burden has lifted, and now it's not about the taking the bullet that is a tuition bill. Now it's about, all right, what good am I going to do, right? And you've probably paid some things off at this point, and you got some stuff, and you got some retirement money. So I think that's when you're.
That's the time to start thinking about it, right?
Yes.
That's the time because then you kind of, once that you kind of cross that bridge, now you're in that, well, okay, how much do I have? How much, that's when you really start thinking about your retirement, right?
Absolutely.
And you start saying,
yes.
Okay, how much longer am I going to do this? What do I have to show for all my work? And then how am I going to do my retirement? And that's really when I look at it and say, okay, what's your retirement picture look like? Because I look at that first long before I look at legacy.
Yes, I agree.
And if as we're getting there, as we're doing that planning, as we're approaching retirement, me, who's ever kind of looking at this, realize, okay, here's what we're working with. knowing what you know about retirement planning, you're like, look, you're going to have, maybe, money coming out of an IRA, but that's not going to be enough money for you to live on your own. But
Right.
you have Social Security.
Right.
And you're going to take that at a time when it's the most appropriate time for you to take it because, and you may say to them, look, you don't have enough money to retire right. How many times you say that, right?
Right. Yep.
You don't have enough money to retire right now. But when we get to this, here's kind of like our line of demarcation when we think that's when you're in that, you'll be able to do it because of X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And once you get there, but as you're approaching there, they may be telling you, hey, listen, I really want to leave a legacy. I really want to leave something for my kids. And that's when you can start, like you're saying, build into that plan right now. Because if I want to leave my house to my kids,
Right.
but at some point, you as the planner realize, look, at some point you may not be able to live in this house.
Right.
And the only way for you to fund where you're going to live, because you're not going to have enough money to do it,
Right.
is to sell that house,
Right.
and then to move to a new place.
But this goes back to what we talked about before, which is, do I need the house or do I need the money that the house would turn into, right?
Right.
Because you could say, look, you know what? Regardless of whether or not I'm going to live in this house, if I didn't have this house, and I didn't have the money that the house would turn into, it doesn't change my retirement account at all. I have a pension. I have a sizable 401k. My wife's got a pension. Whatever those numbers look like, now you start to say to yourself, all right, that's really like, now we're talking legacy assets. That's the discussion.
You have the capability,
Correct.
to leave a legacy.
Correct.
You have the capability where we've said this before, where we'll get to a point. There's some people that that are just they're very well off,
Yeah.
and even Mr. The sky is falling. Don't spend all. Save money. Never run out of money in retirement. We may get to a point where we say, you know what? You're never going to spend this money.
Right.
Yeah,
You've won the game. You've won the game.
Yeah, you're not going to. Unless you had a gambling, even if you had a gambling addiction, you're not going to
Right.
spend this money. So if this is something we can use for that legacy.
And this is if you are intentionally trying to do that, because there's other folks that would say, look, we have as many clients that come into our office that say, look, my kids are going to get what they get. Right?
Yep.
If there's $10 left, they can all fight over $10. If there's $10 million, that's fine too. The fight might be a little bit messier, but that's fine too. Whatever
that
it is,
fight might be more fun to watch.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. But they don't care, right? And they may have even gone so far as to say, and we've had this conversation with our kids. We've told our kids, because kids joke all the time, right? You're around it all the time, right? Don't go spending my inheritance.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, they sound like half joking. That's
Yeah.
not even completely, sincere.
I said that to he did spend my college money on his Cape Cod house.
Sure.
I said that to my father. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, thanks a lot. No, that's my money that you were going to let me have, that you saved for me for college. And instead, my brother and my sisters got it. And
There you go.
I got. You know what I got? I get to sleep in the basement when I go visit them.
There you
in the
go.
Cape
What a
Cod
sport.
house.
Yep, what a sport. But but that's the idea. The idea is, look, they may have said this. Look, the legacy is, it's whatever you get that I don't spend. And I'm not going to move heaven and earth. And I'm not trying to block things out. And I'm not trying to protect things in such a way that they're absolutely going to be available for you. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
You can have that conversation. We've had those discussions with people who come in, and you want to talk about an easy vibe in a conference room where everybody's like, well, look, we keep telling them, spend your money. It's your money. If there's anything left over, that's fine, but we're not waiting around for it. Everybody's just chill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different, and then we've had the other experiences where they are waiting for it. They are expecting it. They are, every time mom and dad go out to dinner.
Sooner rather than later.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Every time mom and dad go out to dinner, they feel like they're taking it right in the wallet. It's not even their money yet. So, the legacy
Why are
issue.
you going out to dinner?
Yeah.
Where are you going? What, you call, we went out to dinner last
I just
night.
brought you a case of pasta.
We went to Zanzibar.
Yeah. With all that
What
stuff.
are you doing in New York City again?
Yeah, that's right. You sleep in your car. What are you doing in a hotel? I mean, so this is what I think I think this is kind of where this is going, which is you got to decide if you're going to be, if you want to control the legacy, decide what the legacy looks like, and then decide, how are you going to get there?
Yeah, and the plan, our plan, the one that we'll predominantly prescribe, will in fact by default leave some form of a legacy.
Sure.
We don't have our plan doesn't have us spending your money down to zero.
Right, understood,
We never
understood.
have that, right? Now, Could it happen? Absolutely, it could. Again, for all the unforeseen changes in the weather of your lifetime. But our plan is designed to where we're gonna try to maintain money all the way up until you hit age 110, right?
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
and if it works out, and the finance gods look down and say, this is that we're going to allow this to happen, then great, then that happens. And then there's some people where you know what? We don't know kind of where you're going to be.
Right.
We don't know how we're going to plan that you're not going to run out of money. But again, we have less money to work with in this particular case.
Sure.
And back in the beginning, we said the whole idea of I really want to leave something for my kids. And sometimes what's an example? Sometimes you may have single parents who just have one child, right?
Sure.
And they're like, I raised my daughter all by myself. It's really important to me.
Yeah.
Really important to me that I leave something for my daughter or for my son because I don't care what you say.
Understood.
I don't
Yep.
care what you say. So that's a real feeling. So what's a reasonable way? So if I'm having this conversation, well before their retirement or well before, what's a way I can do that? How can I leave? I can guarantee I'm going to leave something but that not have it be so much of an impact on my overall retirement.
Well, you could certainly buy life insurance.
There you go.
Wait,
right?
what? Did I get it right?
Of course you got it. You studied for the quiz.
All right.
Yeah. So this is where we talk about life insurance quite a bit, but the whole idea of kind of permanent life insurance and
We make fun of life insurance quite a bit.
people will come
yes.
up to me and they'll say, oh, I bought this whole life policy. I'm like, why did you do that? Oh my God, they spend so much money. But in some cases,
Sure.
particularly in cases like this, or even more poignant is if you have a special needs child,
Yep.
and that I have limited resources, but I know I'll be able to leave them something.
Right.
If I have my house or not, something is going to go to them, and that's where these kind of permanent life insurance policies. Again, so long as you're not cutting off your arm, to spite your leg or whatever.
No, but you want like everything we've always talked about. You understand the purpose, right? Money has a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Your planning has purpose. As long as you understand the purpose of what that's for, that makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, so that's a way that you can kind of guarantee a legacy, and at the same time not have it be damaging to your overall strategic retirement plan.
Sure.
And not where you're like, hey, well, I'm definitely going to leave my house to my daughter. Well, you might, but there may be a scenario where you may not.
We can do some things.
You might not be able to.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's
then before the break, we were talking about my one client who was like, I don't want to leave my house with a mortgage. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm like, don't.
I agree.
Don't. Again, all of the inheritance money, unless you have a special needs child that has no other way, your grown kids, they're on their own path.
Yep.
Just like you were on your own path.
Yep.
Just like Tom's, we're all on our own path, right? And if there's money that comes to me via an inheritance, then that is found money. But
Yep.
I'm not writing my story. I'm not making my plan based on the fact that I'm going to get an inheritance at some point.
No, I don't think you should. Look, as a parent, I would say to anybody out there who says, look, I'm trying to leave a legacy, this is what I would say. Do you want to leave a legacy? Throw some money in a 529 plan for your grandkids.
Sure.
You want to leave a legacy? Do something like that. You can control it. It doesn't destroy your estate planning. It doesn't destroy your retirement planning. You can control it. We tell clients all the time, you can give away, the number is $18,000. You don't have to give away 18. It's not zero sum, right?
Yeah.
It's not 18 or nothing, right? And if your grandkids are really little, you're getting a huge head start, right? And so, a couple grand here, whatever you can afford, makes a big difference.
It's great.
Over the course of 18 years, let the market do its thing. Those contributions may be matched by their parents' contributions or something like that. That's a huge, you don't have to pay for the whole thing. But this is kind of like the kids get to school. It's like, well, my kid's on the hook for 1 year. That's 25% taken care of. And then my mom and my dad, they've been putting some money in a 529 plan. That's another year and a half, almost 2 years. We only got 1 more year left to cover, right?
Yeah.
So we can do that, right? That's manageable, right? I think that's a real way for you to secure a legacy for somebody if you're really worried about it.
And the idea of a gifting plan. So that's one type of gift. But if you want to start giving your kids money, and again, all within the realm that it's not going to affect your retirement plan, right?
Fiscally responsible
Yep,
gift.
that it's not that you're going to say, look, and like you said, I don't have to give you. I can give you $2,000. I can give you $3,000.
Yep.
Or if there's, let's say you want to put a new porch on your house, I can help you pay that.
Yep.
Right? I can help you pay that. But again, this is a slippery slope because we've seen in our practice where clients they're like this, like, oh, I have a ton of money. I feel like I have so much money, and I'm like, well, you have money, make no mistake about it, but you don't have a ton of money,
Right.
And I think that's what people kind of need.
Well,
help with.
you know what? You have a lot of money. You're very well positioned as long as every single thing breaks your way and absolutely nothing goes wrong.
Yeah.
And that's hearing that from a trusted advisor like you guys, that's enough to put somebody back a little bit and say, all right, but what could go wrong? Or if it does go wrong, how wrong? And the answer is, well, a little bit wrong for you guys is a lot wrong.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Hold on. I think that's important.
So we've seen this, we've seen this where clients are like they're bent on giving money to their kids and and the kids are bent on asking their mother or father for money.
Well, now there's this whole movement. You see these books out there that talk about, giving all your money away so your kids so you can see the look of joy
Right, we
on
talked
their
about this
faces
last
and all
time,
that stuff. It's like, okay, to a point, yes, to a point. But I mean, don't be cavalier about it. There's irresponsible, and that could be a real problem.
Because if you do, if you do it irresponsibly, you could be painting yourself into a corner that you're not going to be able to get out of.
No, you will not get out of it.
And that right, because you don't earn money anymore.
No.
You don't make money. So and that when we sat down 10 years ago or 15 years ago or however long ago, said, what does your retirement look like? Explain this to me in your mind. What picture do you see? And do you see, I have to move in with my daughter because I can't afford my house anymore because I've taken a second loan out on my house because
that I gave to her brother.
Yeah, because because they wanted to put an addition on their house and I helped them do that.
Then they get divorced and I was supposed to move into the in-law.
Or my one son who didn't have a job, I bought him a car and I bought it cash because I didn't want him to have any payments and all those stories. It gets you, and then the stock market didn't go up every year. Why didn't it? Why don't I make 10% every year? Because that's not how it works.
Right. That's right.
And especially when you start taking money out when your stock market's down, then you're adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of leaving a legacy, if it's important to you, then there are ways to get to be able for you to enable you to be able to do that.
Well, you need to decide. Yep. Is this something I'm serious about, or is this something that's just going to be a default?
Yeah, and if it happens, great.
Yep.
If it doesn't happen, it's not changing anybody's glide path.
That's right. That's
It's not changing anybody's life. It's not changing. I mean, if I have the capability, if my daughters inherit, $300,000 each from when I die, from whatever, and they can pay off their loans, or they can pay off their kids' student loans, or whatever thing however it's going to advance them or make them better, then that's fantastic and that's great. But I'm not building my retirement plan on making sure that they have that capability to do that.
I'm not going to impoverish myself. No,
yep.
not at all.
I'm not going to do that. And again.
And by the way, that's not selfish. So for you who are sitting around listening to this saying, "Oh my God, how selfish!" This is not selfish. This is you thinking about things in the right order.
Yeah,
That's
just
really
like
what it is.
I mean, and you shouldn't feel bad if, and this is your line, right? I'm not going to feel bad by all the hard work that I've done to get to this point and to be financially stable, right? I'm not going to. I shouldn't. There's nothing that's going to make me feel bad about that, and I'm certainly not going to feel bad if because my retirement plan doesn't allow me to give my kids each $1 million,
Right.
then I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because they're on their own path. They're doing just like you're on your path.
Well, it took you 40 years to get here.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that you have to jumpstart their situation. They have their glide path in front of them, and they'll get there. At some point, something will happen that will make it a little bit easier if that's what you want. How easy? That's the question.
And you hear this time and time again where people are like, well, nowadays like real estate prices are so high. Real estate are like my kid's never going to be able to afford. My kid's never be able to afford a house close to you. And again, this could all be part of your strategic retirement plan. Is like, okay, I'm going to gift money. I'm going to help you to buy that house because That's what I want.
Yep.
I want to live near you. I want you to live near me. I want to be able to, if you end up having children, I want to be able to experience live near my grandchildren. So again, all part of the strategic plan, but I'm not doing it necessarily just for you. I'm doing it because that's part of my
brings
plan.
value to me. It brings joy to me. It has value to me. Yep.
It's all about value. So it's creating value.
That's it.
And on that note,
Let's create
you
some
know
value.
how you create some
We
value?
just created some value.
You know how you create some value? You let Tom hit last.
Nice.
Right? Or no, even better, let Tom hit first.
And nothing happened. Then it doesn't matter.
Tom hits
Doesn't
first.
matter.
Where are you? Oh, I'm actually 275 yards on the middle, right in the middle there.
I'm a wedge from
and
the
then
green.
I'm like, then I Happy Gilmore and I
Yep.
run up and hit it. Yeah. All right. So are we gonna do this? We're gonna do this 9-hole thing.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. All right. All right. Until next time, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Money in the Law today on MyFM 101.3 and the Holliston Hub. Jay Mars and John Drohan and Tom Harmon. We'll see everybody next time on Money and the Law.
Have a great week, everybody.